long time and worked very hard to allow this day to be realized, finally.
And in your time in the White House, can you remember any time when you got close, when you believed that Osama bin Laden had been in your sights and been either captured or killed?
Yes, in fact, I was one person at one time who thought that he had been killed, but I was wrong. So I think we were close. The intelligence was never as good as we wanted it to be, but I can tell you that people in the intelligence community have worked so hard for so long.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. Thanks very much for joining us on the phone tonight. I also want to bring in now Richard Clark. He was the head of counterterrorism for many years under President Bush and President Clinton. This was someone who you tracked day and night for years, Dick Clark. Can you believe it's happened?
Well, it's very personally satisfying, I think, not just for me, George, and the other people who tried to get him, but for the victims' families. There's finally a sense of closure here. And it comes at a really good time in terms of what's going on in the Middle East, because al-Qaeda itself has looked in the last few months like it was on the ropes. And this will allow the United States to take real advantage of this timely death. It comes too late to save all the thousands of lives that he's taken, but it is satisfying. It shouldn't divert us, however, from the fact that there are still lots of al-Qaeda cells out there. Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb, al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, related groups like the Shabab in Somalia, the big terrorist camps. So it's not over, George, and it's very important that no one thinks it's over. But it is satisfying, and we should finally feel some sense of closure on this chapter.
Okay, Dick, thanks for calling in. Please stand by. I want to come back in a second, but I want to go back now to Jake Tapper at the White House. What do you have, Jake?
Well, it's just what Richard Clark just had to say, of course, is accurate, and the fight against terrorism does not go over. But we should step back a moment and just reflect on the emotion. There is jubilation here at the White House and across government. This has been this is the man who is the face of al-Qaeda. This is the man that caused the United States so much pain on September 11th, 2001. And after almost a decade of the U.S. doing everything it could, including a loss of many lives of U.S. soldiers and intelligence officials in Afghanistan and the region, finally, there is a big victory with the killing of Osama bin Laden. This is something that is going to mean a great deal to a number of Americans, to millions of Americans who remember that day. It was a day that changed the world in no small way, changed America, and I think it is important that we take a step back and reflect on how important this is to so many Americans when they hear this, that the U.S. officials who have been tasked with going after bin Laden have succeeded, that this man, the #1 enemy of the United States of America, has been killed. He has been brought to justice.
You're exactly right, Jake Tapper. There's no question about that. He has been the face of evil for so many Americans for so long, even taunting the United States, as he alluded, capture. I want to bring that back to Richard Clark. I mean, there is going to be immediate reaction all around the world, here in the United States, around the Arab world, around the rest of the globe. But can you try to tease out what difference this is going to make on the ground for Al-Qaeda, for the Al-Qaeda brand?
Well, that's the question, George, and there's a debate in the intelligence community, has been for a long time, as to whether or not he had any ongoing guidance role or management role. I think the bottom line is it shouldn't make any difference in the operations of the organization because he really wasn't doing micromanagement. It is going to hurt their reputation at a time when it has already been hurt badly by the Arab Spring. Most of the rebellions that have taken place in the Arab countries, from Tunisia, Egypt on down, have not involved al-Qaeda, at least not initially, and in fact have involved a more secular approach, youth rejecting al-Qaeda and the al-Qaeda way, and succeeding in replacing the governments that al-Qaeda tried for years to replace, like the government in Egypt, and couldn't.
Okay, Richard, thanks. I want to go to Martha Raddatz right now. Martha, you've learned that the United States actually has Osama's body?
The national security sources are saying that they do have his body in custody, and that is, of course, why they had to do the DNA test. They had the body. They wanted to do the test on the body.
Okay, well,
Okay, George, I'm sorry I lost you for a moment, but yes, we are hearing, and I am hearing as well, that they do have Osama bin Laden's body, and that's what we were referring to earlier, because they had to check that body to make certain it was Osama bin Laden, and that's why there was all the activity in the White House, in fact, for the past several days, because they believed they got him, but they weren't certain, and the president wanted to make certain tonight.
okay,
I just want to add a little personal note here too, George. Listening to Jake, I was literally sitting on a plane on my way to Afghanistan tonight, and was pulled off that plane when we heard that the president was going to make this announcement. And I'm thinking how many trips I've made to Afghanistan, how long this war has been going on because of Osama bin Laden. So it was really quite amazing to get that news tonight.
and what a difference, Martha, this is going to make to all those American troops still fighting there every single day.
I cannot imagine how elated those troops will be. That will be the biggest boost they could possibly get, because you talk to those troops, George, and you know this, you talk to them and they say, we are fighting for the nation. We are fighting for the nation. We're going to get Osama bin Laden someday. And I'll tell you, so many people were doubtful about this, even intelligence officials. I had one tell me a few years ago, I think he'll die of old age before we get him. We have no idea where he is. But they kept at it, they kept going, and you can't say that diplomacy didn't have a good deal to do with this too. You had David Petraeus over there talking to the leaders in Pakistan. You had Leon Panetta over there talking to the leaders in Pakistan, trying to get cooperation year after year after year, and staying with it. But truly, George, what I'm thinking about tonight is those troops over there who will be absolutely elated.
What a jolt this will be for them. I want to go back to Andy Card, the Chief of Staff in George W. Bush's White House. And Andy, you mentioned before that there were times when you believed that Osama bin Laden had been captured or killed. Try to take us inside that for a moment. This was a daily focus for President Bush, for your White House. The president would get those intelligence briefings every single morning. The number one thing he would be looking for every single morning is, where is Osama bin Laden? Has he been gotten? Is there any chance? Take us back to those days when you believed you had him in your sights.
Well, first of all, President Bush's focus was on protecting America. So the first thing he would say, what are we doing to protect America? Yes, he was interested in getting Osama bin Laden, and he wanted him preferably alive, but he wanted him dead or alive. And we did focus on that, and we would get regular reports about the intelligence of where we thought he was, or the frustration when we couldn't figure out where he was. And there were a couple of times when we thought we had him. Sometimes it would be a drone strike that we thought had been authorized to get him, and it wouldn't have been him. Or he would have been someplace, and the information came in, and it was a few hours old, and we just miss him. So there were frustrations. But I tell you, this is a tremendous night for the American people, but it's also a night where we have to remember we have to be particularly vigilant about danger that is still out there. This act could cause people to do things that maybe they had planned to do for a long time if this day came. So we've got to be on our toes, and there's not a doubt in my mind that the intelligence community and our law enforcement community and the FBI are working very hard to make sure that this does not trigger attacks on Americans or American interests.
That is an excellent point, Mr. Carding. Please stand by. I want to take that to Pierre Thomas. Pierre, you cover the FBI every single day, and they've been concerned especially about homegrown attacks here in the United States. And